Quinette and Erica, the officer who was hurt, relatively new to the force, has been with Framingham Police for 3 years. He suffered serious injuries, but is expected to be okay. The chief is commending him for jumping into action.
The mangled metal shows just how severe the impact was in this head-on crash. Shortly before midnight on Edgell Road in Framingham, a car slammed into a pickup truck. And behind the wheel of that truck, a Framingham police officer. He was on his way to help fellow officers calling for backup at an out-of-control party.
That officer was working a detail in Framingham and took it upon himself, his own initiative, to respond to that party call to assist the officers that were calling for help.
The unidentified officer and the driver of the other vehicle were both flown to UMass Memorial Center in Worcester with serious injuries. Framingham's police chief visited his officer at the hospital.
Well, he was humble when I said to him I thanked him. He thanked me for coming to visit him. I commended him for his actions. He said, "Chief, I did what any officer would have done."
He was heading here to a home on Brook Street where police responded to complaints about a loud party. They found more than 200 people there, and soon fights erupted, with some officers suffering minor injuries. Devontae Santiago of Hyde Park was arrested for disorderly conduct, and Keith Worthy of Springfield is facing several charges, including assault and battery on a police officer and resisting arrest.
People get needlessly injured when something like this occurs, and we're going to follow it to the fullest extent of the law.
Now, the crash is still under investigation. It is unclear if that driver is going to be charged. He's currently hospitalized in stable condition. The chief says the preliminary investigation shows that the car may have been coming from that house party. Live in Framingham, Sarah Conji, WCVB News Center 5.